Steve Kerr joined us earlier this week, and he talked about leadership and what Chris Paul brings and how this group feels a lot more connected. And that's the word connectivity they've been using throughout the entirety of this preseason.
I got to tell you, I'm surprised about this. And Grandy, if you can pull up AA 39, this is Steve Kerr talking about that comment you just referenced with regard to the leadership they need. I think this is definitely something we'll discuss with all the guys, because this grabbed people's attention, especially if you don't hear the context of it. And you're like, wait a minute, you needed Chris Paul's leadership? Even though you've got the likes of Draymond Green and Steph Curry and Steve Kerr and Klay Thompson and Looney and people like this already on the roster. So if you want the context of that, take a listen. Here's what Steve Kerr said specific to Chris Paul and leadership.
He's the perfect fit for us right now because, frankly, I think we need his leadership. I think we needed, a guiding force for this group. I think, our team was so young last year and obviously, never really got it going. I think we put up a pretty good fight in the playoffs, but never really found our groove. And I think, coming into this season, I think Mike Dunleavy and his staff, I think they recognized that we needed more veteran leadership. And between Chris and Dario Saric, Corey Joseph, we added 3 incredible professionals and really, really good players. I mean, obviously Chris is a Hall of Famer, but Dario is a terrific player. Corey's been a rock-solid point guard in this league for, almost a decade. So it just feels like this group is more balanced and more capable of kind of getting off to a good start and establishing something early and building some momentum.
I am fascinated by Steve Kerr saying, quote, we needed more veteran leadership. I wonder how you sort of pull that apart, because they had plenty of veteran leadership. However, I'll also say this. You do, as we know in sports, you always get to a point where the same voices start to become quiet. I don't know who it is that was necessarily tuning out the veteran leadership, or if he's simply talking about the Jordan Poole situation. We know Jordan Poole and Andrew Wiggins were really tight.
Right.
I know that recently Moses Moody pointed out in a positive way, saying Draymond Green is the one who's really like leading my way. But I don't know if it's we needed more veteran leadership. We needed different veteran leadership.
I think both, and I think in terms of the second unit, and we all expect Chris Paul to be a big part of the second unit at some point, leading that group and trying to unlock Jonathan Kuminga and all the rest of it. But when you look at what you had last year in terms of Jordan Poole, not a veteran leader. Kevon Looney's a veteran, but he's not an outspoken leader. Wiggins is not either, and he missed half the year. Klay Thompson's more of a keep to himself kind of a guy, and he doesn't necessarily lead in that way. And what did Draymond Green say at the start of the year, or what did he say about the start of the year? His leadership was muted because of what happened in that practice with he and Jordan Poole. So you really had a big-time leadership void for a number of reasons that you won't have this year with Chris Paul there.
Here's my big question, man. This is something we're going to throw out to fans today, to listeners, to people on the scene, and obviously all of the guys when they get up here in front of these tables. I think it's one of the biggest questions off the court facing the Warriors right now. How important is it that Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and Steph Curry never, ever, ever wear another jersey?
I mean, how important is it to the fans? How important is it to the organization?
You can only answer for you.
For me, it's very important because we've been in situations forever in this town where we've wanted this in certain ways and we haven't gotten it. And now you have this group, these 3 guys who've won 4 championships. Kevon has won 3. He's a forever Warrior. But just take the big 3, Steph, Klay, and Dre. It rolls off the tongue because it's a thing. They all 3 were born Warriors, and they all 3 need to have their careers end as Warriors. For me, it's very important. Even, Mark, if it means on the back end, you got to eat it. for a couple of years. And you got to have a couple of years where, geez, this guy is overpaid and your team is not championship level anymore.
I'm with you.
I know Joe Lacob doesn't see it that way.
I know.
And I don't believe he's going to proceed in that fashion. But as a fan, if they're 38, 37, and 37, and they're all past their prime, and they're all in their last year, and the Warriors are 30 and 52, I'm going to remind myself it's okay.
I'm with you. But that, to me, is the issue that I would love to actually get a real answer about behind closed doors, because Joe Lacob is a type A billionaire. He does not want to lose. He does not have an ego that will allow him to say, sure, it's okay if we're just kind of mediocre
He'll never
for a little
that.
while. But by the same token, he stated very clearly today that he is activated by the idea that all three of these guys never, ever wear another jersey. So the truth of the matter is, it does feel like Joe thinks something can happen with the Warriors that is probably not realistic. It is not. It is not a rational thought to say you can pay all of these guys what they want to be paid, you can make sure that they never wear another jersey, and you can be elite for another 4 years.
Right.
That is not a realistic NBA thought.
I think you're right, and I know Joe was talking about getting Steph and Clay and Draymond past LeBron in terms of titles, because right now they're all tied up with 4 chips apiece.
We'll play that for you in a sec, but yes.
I do believe that if they were able to get one, then that would make the back end of these contracts a little bit more palatable for Joe Lacob, which is why I do think there's a lot more urgency on this year than anyone's going to let on, because you made the trade, Poole out, Paul in, thinking that Chris Paul can help you more right now than Jordan Poole can. So if you're Joe Lacob, yeah, you don't want to have these guys end their career in their late 30s and be no good. However, if you can get one more chip before that happens, I do think, one for the thumb, I do think you can tolerate this back end looking a little bit unseemly.
Is it one for the thumb, or is it simply about beating LeBron James? Listen to this now. Joe Lacob talking about the idea of getting Steph a 5th ring. Grandy, give us AB 29. Joe Lacob and the idea of getting Steph ring number 5.
We got a window here. We've got to try to win another title. And I really badly want to see Steph and our guys, Clay and Draymond, get another one. LeBron's got 4.
Yep.
They got 4.
Yep.
Let's get 5. Let's seed him to 5.
Right.
Thank you.
Nice cameo by Joe
it.
Shasky.
Yes.
Slam that table. Thank you. Here's one thing I love. This is an owner who, and he does a good job. The decorum, I get it. You're an owner. You realize that your statements are going to be taken and replayed and massaged and moved and discussed and all of those things. But what Lacob does a great job of, outside of just wanting to win, is I do think he lets some things into the room that normally people in his position won't. Joe Lacob did not make it about wanting to win and doing the best we can for Steph.
Right.
He just flat out made it about LeBron. He's like, that dude's got 4, we got 4, let's get 5. I love that. That's different. That's different than what you normally hear someone in his position say.
This is why you love him as an owner, is because he's an owner first, but he's a fan second. And he might be a fan first, and oh, by the way, I own the team. That's the vibes you get from Joe Lacob. And you see him courtside, and he gets up, and he's pumping his fist. And normally you would look at an owner and be like, okay, all right there. All right, Susie cheerleader, settle it down.
Right? There's Cuban, there's Ballmer.
But these guys really, really mean it. They're not phonies. Like Cuban, when he's getting $1 million fines for yelling at the refs, he really is mad at the refs.
Yes, I was going to say, you don't think Cuban's a phony on this. No.
These guys are not phonies.
No,
that's what I'm
Lacob,
saying.
Cuban, Ballmer. Who am I missing? Owners that are actually in row 2, like ready to pump a fist, ready to roll up their collared sleeve, take the cufflinks off, and let's have a night.
Yeah, and that's where, so Joe Lacob says what he says, and honestly, he speaks for all of us because, we want to get not 5, not 6, not 7, thank you, LeBron, but to have more than LeBron, already you feel like Steph and Clay and Dre, you've gotten over LeBron. You've done better than LeBron head-to-head. You beat him year in and year out. However, when you look, and I pulled up the Wikipedia earlier, and the list of players ranked by title, and the 4 guys active with 4 titles are LeBron, Steph, Clay, and Dre.
Yep.
So wouldn't it be nice to be up with and I think it's Tim Duncan's got 5. Steve Kerr's got like 13.
Right.
But
Kerr
has 5.
Kerr and Robert Horry mess everything up for everybody.
Kerr has 5, though, as a player. But
right.
as an exec and as a coach, I think he's got maybe 10.
Doesn't he have like a third of the rings the last 30 years?
That was the stat.
Yeah, something like that.
Big time.
All right. Here's the elephant in the room. And as we start the season, the elephant in the room, and the reason we're asking this is obviously about Klay Thompson. We all thought this was among the most interesting things that Joe Lacob said earlier this morning on the Morning Roast, when he compared Klay's contract situation to the negotiations that just took place with Draymond Green. So AB 25, Grandy, here's what Lacob said in comparing the Draymond situation, which is now done, and the Klay situation, which is not.
Well, I hope it's not a distraction. I mean, we're not in control of this. I mean, there's 2 sides to every negotiation. We want him back. He wants to be back. It's kind of like Draymond.
Right.
I think you guys, everyone needs to just chill a little bit. Let this take its course. My guess is it works out. Okay. You know, I can't control it. I can't dictate it. You can't dictate it.
Right.
Fans can't dictate it. These things have to take their course. There's different parties involved, but the intentions are really good.
The Draymond situation was different because he had an opt-in and he could opt out if he chose to.
True.
But do you look back at how that went and learn any lesson from that? Was it good, bad, indifferent? Was it just business? Like, did that have any tangible effect on the season last year, you think? Oh,
it might have, but I think there were some issues last year with respect to some of the contracts. Some of the other guys got contracts I know you're referring to. Maybe it did. I don't think there's going to be anything like that this year, though.
Yeah.
I really don't. Klay's a professional. Respect him tremendously. And we're going to do our best to get this done. And, hopefully it is done sooner rather than later, but it might not be.
Okay. I mean, for me,
man,
there are 5 fascinating things that come out of that conversation alone.
First of all, Lacob telling all the fans to just chill.
Chill.
Fish be chill.
Well,
go back in there and chill out, everybody.
All right. And I quote, my guess is it works out. Then again, that was his guess with Bob Myers as well. And I know that that's totally different because we're talking about an executive. But when I hear him talk about that and speak about the fact that, look, there's 2 sides to every negotiation. This is not completely in our control. He's sort of saying it takes 2 to tango. And we know that Joe Lacob is not used to people saying no to him.
Right.
So when I put all that into a bucket, do I feel like confident that, sure, chill, it's going to work out? I got to be honest with you. I don't.
Wow.
I don't feel that way based on where we sit today. If Joe Lacob is right, chill out, my guess is it can work out, but I'm not sure. Meantime, Woj and Myers are on national TV saying sides are far apart. There's been 0 movement. Season starts in 6 days. Like, I think we can read between the lines. There's a lot going on here.
Right,
and there's a lot of work that needs to be done and a lot of agreeing that needs to happen that right now isn't.
I think, and from what I heard him say, is this whole thing's going to get tabled until April, May, or June, whenever the season
you
gets
think?
done. Yeah, I don't.
Oh, see, I think that gets loud if it goes that, and it might. Well, if it goes that long, it's going to get loud.
I can't see either side wanting to negotiate during the season, and we are 6 days away from the start of the season. So what you're saying about, the 2 sides seem far apart, I agree with you. Joe saying, chill out, I think it's going to all work out, tells me we're going to let it play out, and then at the end of the year, if Klay does what we expect him to do, and we're in a spot that we expect to be with Chris off the books, Klay's going to get the money he wants, and Klay's going to be here. That's what I was hearing.
Yeah, I don't know if I see it that way. And in fact, when you hear what he says And I thought this was an interesting job by Shasky to sort of say, hey, what'd you learn from the Draymond thing that you can take to this? And he said, look, last year some guys got some contracts that, clearly it was still in the room. It was, he didn't use these words, but what I'm gathering from listening to it, it ruffled feathers. I thought in that clip, Joe Lacob confirmed that money last year was absolutely a part of the disagreements in play. But then as he wraps out of that conversation, he goes, look, this year we've got professionals. I mean, I know no one really wants to go too deep down this road anymore, but I hear veiled shots at Jordan Poole when I listen to what Joe Lacob just said.
For sure. And the reason why they signed Jordan Poole when they did was so that they would have some flexibility, or as we like to say now, optionality is the word we all use now. So by signing Jordan Poole, you had optionality. Jordan Poole's year, the way it went that way, and you realized, you know what? We need to do better. How do we get better without taking on a ton of money, which we can't take on? We trade Jordan Poole. So, yeah, veiled shots or not veiled shots, they're all taking him now that he's out the door.